Aloha everyone. I am here with my journal and I would love to share with you something that I was going to put in written form onto my page. I was just going to share journaling with you, but instead I decided I would read it live. And this way I'll just add in whatever else flows, and I think it's fun as well as y'all are tuning in. I will tune into your energy and that will perhaps add to the message. So this video is called Advice from the Archetypes, How to Say No. And I think that a lot of people struggle with saying no, and so this is a pretty important topic. I get a lot of people asking me all of the time, how do you set boundaries? How do you how do you take your space? How do you say no to people? And the thing is, I'm a networker. So I get a lot of offers for opportunities to collaborate with other people on projects, retreats, meditations, ceremonies, all kinds of programs. And I wish that I could do it all, but I can't. And there's only one of me. So I did have to learn how to set firm, but also loving and sometimes gentle boundaries along the way. I'm in the desert, so I've got my big water with me. Staying hydrated. I hope you are too. So good to see you guys. Hey, what's going on? Okay, so back to the topics, how to say no. A lot of people clearly struggle with this. A lot of people want to know how do I do it? You just do it. First of all, you get to a point where you have to, okay? Things start falling apart when you don't know how to say no. When you don't know how to set boundaries, things absolutely go wrong. You need to remember that you are a part of the whole. You are a part of the one. And you must be treated like you want to treat everybody else. The way that you give your love and your support and your nurturing energy to others is absolutely what you have to do for yourself as well. You are a vital part of the one. You are a vital part of the whole. And if you don't start within and you don't start with you, we have no solid foundation to do anything from there. There's no going forward from there. There's no progressing from that point. If you don't fill your cup first, it can't overflow to others, right? So how do we say no? So this video is called Advice from the Archetypes because I wanted to be clear with you guys. I get questions sometimes, where do you get your information from? I often share mystical insights or spiritual messages in my videos, and a lot of you don't actually even question where the information is coming from. And thankfully, I feel that you're safe with me because I have our best interests as one at heart. And but it's absolutely necessary to think for yourself and to question everything. So I also welcome you to question me and in a loving way and in a way that is respectful. Ask me things, if you're genuinely on a journey to expansion and self-awareness and self-actualization, then I absolutely am here for you. And if you reach out in a way that is respectful, then I want to be there for you and I want to help you because we're on this mission together, right? So going back to the question, how do I get my information? I ask the archetypes. But the way that we ask the archetypes is different. Each one of us asks or tunes in to the archetypes differently. And there are many factors that contribute to how we tune into this archetypal alliance within us. Okay, one of them being, are we conscious or unconscious of their existence? Because a lot of us, the way that we tune into the archetypes is entirely unconsciously. We're just doing it because we can't help but do it because the archetypes are the building blocks of all of reality. So first, we start there. What is your level of awareness or your understanding of the archetypes? And that's going to affect how you tune into them. I feel very blessed that I've had a very strong connection to my intuition, which has been the voice of that alliance my whole life. And that voice has always been louder, thank God, than the voice of the outside world. And so anybody can get to that point. Anybody can, and I believe everybody will at some point. I believe this is the way the consciousness is headed right now. And I believe it's happening quicker than a lot of people think. And so I'm going to show you how to do it right now. Are you ready? I'm getting there. So this is the thing. Somebody said here, and I'm going to share this in the comments. Thank you, Jolie. So you actually don't need these cards because you have the tarot inside. That's exactly right. If you haven't seen my book yet, you guys, my first book, I have published 2 books now. The first book is called The Royal Path, Activating the Archetypal Alliance Within. And Jolie's question reflects exactly what my passion is and what I've shared in that book. That you don't have to see the tarot in such a confusing, scary, or ominous way. It's about seeing the tarot from a new perspective. Tarot means royal path. Tarot means royal path, which is all of life. And so the tarot is not just some tool for divination. You know, the characters represent aspects of your own mind, of your own psyche. And so I'm inviting the world through my works to look at tarot in a new way and to use the tarot and that information in a new way. And so I'm going to show you how to do that right now, and I hope to share many more videos like this with you. In fact, I have shared many videos like this with you. However, I did not walk you through the process of tuning into the archetypes because I was simply speaking as them, for them, as a shared voice of their expression. But now I'm going to show you how to take the steps to get there. And I took notes, okay? So don't you worry. And I do have my cards out as well. I'm not using Rider-Waite today. I was guided to use the Brotherhood of Light deck. So that's what I'm using right now. And so you know, for those of you who haven't taken my classes, I use this deck and I use the Rider-Waite deck as well. I use a combination of both. And I do alter certain cards in the Rider-Waite deck. So I don't know if I'll go through the whole thing, but let's just dive in and see how far we'll get with this one. So the question is, how do I say no? Let's consult the archetypes. Essentially, we're going to break it down, and what happens when you do this process all the time, you get so natural with it that you don't have, it doesn't take this long. And the process becomes more graceful and natural, and your subconscious locks it in, and then it becomes effortless, okay? But this is where we have to start, because we have to start somewhere. So if we're going to ask the archetypes a question, we're going to have them in order. This deck doesn't have the Fool. It's going to start with the Magician, but I'm going to start with the Fool. So I'm not going to hold up a card for this one, but it is the beginning. As you know, the Fool is represented by 0 or an O. You want to think of source point. That's what that's going to represent. It's like an access point, or the point where all things merge as one. Thanks for your patience while I have this huge water bottle. Okay, so with the Fool, we're asking the Fool now, who is inside of you. It's an angle of your own mind. We're asking the Fool, how do I say no to someone or something or a situation? The Fool would say, your inner Fool would tell you, you just have to trust. Of course you know when to act and when not to. You are being guided. You are always connected to source, that point. You are always connected. Trust in the divine plan that emanates from this point. That's what the Fool would say to you. And you won't know what the Fool would say to you until you, first of all, understand what that archetype is, right? And my book explains this. Okay, and you could also do your own studies. If my book's not for you, cool, but get in touch with this Fool archetype and at least create your own definition of it so that you have that conscious neural pathway to that energy that absolutely exists in each one of us, and then you can begin to use it with conscious awareness. So whatever you need to do to study the archetypes and know them, do it, because from there you can then have this type of a dialogue with the different archetypes. And I'm assuming that most of you watching are interested in tarot and you sort of have some awareness around this already, or maybe you have your own reasons for watching. That's cool too. I appreciate you. But if you're somewhat aware of the tarot, then this is going to be a very helpful strategy. Okay, so if you already know a little bit about the archetypes, this will make more sense, is what I'm saying. Okay, now let's go to the Magician. Magician looks like this in the Brotherhood of Light deck. Just like the Rider-Waite, he has the different tools on the table, each one representing a different element. So like the cup is water, obviously. The coin is the pentacles. Okay, the wand is actually seen here, kind of looks like a bubble wand. So that'd be a rod or wand. So you see, and then the sword is here, okay? The Magician, for those of you who don't know this archetype at all, and for those of you who don't have a tarot background at all, the Magician is number 1. And the Magician is the one who has one hand receiving above and one hand down. So he's a transmitter. He's receiving and he's reflecting. He's giving. He's taking from source, and through him, he's doing something with that energy and then transferring it to the world. As above, so below. He becomes the conduit. Okay, so the magician, the goal of the magician, this archetype within you, comes into this life, comes into this body to begin to understand what his purpose is with all that. Like, why is he this conduit? And then you ultimately access the deepest initiation within this card and within this archetype and within the Arcanum 1, the secret of the frequency of the actual number 1. You unlock the deepest part of it when you understand why you have this ability to be a conduit, which ultimately is so that you can align your small will with the larger will of the divine. That is the ultimate goal of the magician archetype within each one of us. So now, with that said, knowing who that is, let's ask him. So, how do I say no to the situation? I'm pretty uncomfortable right now and I'm having trouble setting boundaries. Pause. The magician would say, clear and simple, okay? Very simple. The magician would say, is saying no going to help you fulfill your purpose? Well, I don't know my purpose. Well, what is the divine plan? How can you help carry that out? There we go. We're getting somewhere right away, okay? What can you see as your purpose right now? And is saying no to this situation or this person going to help serve that? Okay? Essentially, you just have to ask. The magician will tell you. The magician within will tell you if you ask. Is saying no going to help carry out that plan? What is the divine plan? Simply put, it's bringing heaven to earth. It's bringing those divine qualities into our world. It's bringing the light of compassion into our world. It's lightening up the world a little bit, you guys. It's bringing more love into the world. That's it. A child could understand it. This is your ultimate purpose. And whatever you do within that is a purpose reflecting that greater purpose. Okay, so the magician would ask you, plain and simple, do you have to say no or not? Is it a part of your mission or not? If it's going to serve that mission of you bringing more light into this world, carrying out that beautiful, great, divine plan, then have confidence when you give that no. Okay, that's what the magician would say. Let's do another example. The next card, because the tarot is a sequential story. The High Priestess, also known as the Veiled Isis. See how she has a veil over her eyes? These are the pillars of the polarities and mercy and severity. So she is the gatekeeper for the two within the one. Okay, so this is like the aspect of you that monitors the different parts within. This is you being the space holder for the forces of masculinity and femininity, or in different terms, activity and receptivity, okay, to coexist and harmonize. She maintains that harmony of those two within her. So knowing a little bit now, I could trust me, I could go for an hour, or I could go for 5 hours probably on this archetype, and that is why I offer classes, and that's why I offer my book. But now you know a little bit about the High Priestess, if you didn't already. Now let's ask her. Remember, she's inside of you. She's an angle of your mind. She's an angel of awareness, right? An angle of consciousness. Angels are only angles of awareness. It's all one. It's all you. Just different angles of that same one faceted crystal. Okay, so let's ask the High Priestess, aka the Veiled Isis. How do I say no? Should I say no to the situation? Like, make me feel confident in the decision. What advice do you have for me, High Priestess? And she would say, is this going to help maintain the balance between your own ability to carry a frequency of mercy and severity? Is you saying no the right thing for everyone? Is you saying no going to help maintain the balance of the two within the one that is you, but also the many within the one that is the one, this world, right? Because ultimately you're a microcosm of the macrocosm. And so when we're talking about your High Priestess, you're affecting the one archetypal High Priestess energy or frequency, or number 2 frequency that lives within all things. So don't be fooled. Don't think it's just about you. Don't ever stop there. Bring it to the larger you of which we're all a part, because that's what's really being, affected in such a huge way. I mean, it's all being affected all at once, but you got to take it to that collective level to really open up your mind and open up your heart in the most powerful way. Okay, so she would say, is you saying no going to help maintain that balance within you? Which is ultimately going to help maintain the balance within our world? Because if it is, then you can confidently say no. Okay, you can know that it's absolutely the right thing to say no. And then we say, okay, thank you, High Priestess. I'm going to move on to the next one. She was the High Priestess was the veiled Isis. Now we have the Empress, the unveiled Isis. Okay, so they're two aspects of the same one, but really all the cards are many aspects of the same one. Okay, these are all you. So first we're veiled, and now we're concealed, revealed. So again, the unveiled Isis, you might know her as the High Priest, as the Empress. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about this archetype before we ask her our question. The Empress is the one who does what she needs to do, embodies what she needs to embody to carry out the manifestation that she wants to birth, that she wants to manifest. And so she attunes herself appropriately to make that happen. And a big key to this card, the Empress, she's connected to the Venusian archetype and very much like the Libra archetype and beauty. And so she's connected to beauty and grace, like the Beauty Way. If you've heard of this before, the Beauty Way is an excellent rabbit hole to go down. This is a Native American path that you'll want to learn about. It's incredibly enlightening to study. So that's called the Beauty Way or the Beauty Path, okay? So she's connected to that archetype of grace and beauty. And ultimately, a key to this arcanum means secret. A key to this arcanum is maintaining an attitude of gratitude. Okay, that's why she looks all lovely and beautiful, and she's like gently holding the bird here, and the sun is shining, and that's what you feel, is that gratitude, because that is, the gratitude is the frequency of compassion. And so when we're holding that, then manifestation takes place effortlessly, truly. So that is a key aspect of this card. So with that said, right, because there's again, I can go on and on, but if you want to know more and more and more about her, I have classes for that. Message me, okay? So let's ask her. Oh, wise Empress within, the unveiled Isis, what can you reveal to us about this question? How do I say no? She would say, you just say it. If you need to, then it's what you do. You commit, you follow through. And when you do it gracefully, and you do it beautifully. And not only do you do it just gracefully and in that feminine way, she also has a very active energy, okay? There's a reason that she is also connected to the masculine archetype. While she appears very feminine, it's because she's able to manifest that through her. She is the force that acts on this, okay? She is the force that acts on this. So she's both the masculine and the feminine. She is the feminine in active expression. So you see the play of polarities here. And you can also see that reflected in the secret of the number 3 and the frequency of the keynote of the universe, that is 3. She's a marriage of 1 and 2, making 3. 3 represents action in sacred numerology, you guys. So she is the action that is taken upon the intuition of the High Priestess. She is a manifestation of that balance. In fact, she's not quite the physical manifestation of it yet. She's the conditions that will soon create the physical manifestation of what's going on within. So she would say, first of all, do it with grace, right? But she also has that masculine aspect to her. So she would say, also do it firmly. Do it gracefully and do it firmly. She would tell you that you really have to make sure you're balancing both. That this is going to ensure that the best possible crystallization of the frequency that's trying to come through is going to be manifested. She's going to help you by telling you, look, you got to say no. You already figured out that's what you got to do. So how are you going to say it? Just make sure you do it gracefully and make sure you do it in a considerate way. And you do it in a way that is balanced in the masculine and the feminine polarities. Do it gracefully, but do it firmly. Do what you must. Okay, moving on to the next one. This is a really important one for our question. I think that this part in the Major Arcanum, this part of the sequence of the story of tarot, is where it gets really good with this particular question of how do I say no or how do I set a boundary? And I think right away it's revealed in the name of this card, the Emperor, aka the Sovereign. And those names really activate or really invoke that frequency that is key in being able to set boundaries and say no, right? Because now we're getting to 4, this really like masculine, solid energy. If you look in the Rider-Waite classic art, you'll see the Emperor on his throne, lots of masculine colors, masculine energy, but there's a tiny stream in the background showing that, of course, there's always a connection to the feminine and our intuition, and that is what's subtly guiding us, ultimately, in the background, okay, in the subconscious. But on the surface, it's a very masculine card. And 4 is about form, structure, pattern, foundation, 4 like 4 legs of a table, right? So that's a little bit about this archetype. The Emperor is the one who follows through with his plan. He creates a strategy and he carries it out. This card also represents the part of the alchemical process where we've now manifested a form or the first crystallization of something that previously was only a thought form or a thought concept. Now, because the Tower represents the alchemical or creative process, okay, so the trump cards represent that the stages within alchemy. So now we're at the part where we've produced this first crystallization, the first pattern that's going to set the tone for the rest. It's like a first impression. It's super important, right? And so it has to be crisp, it has to be clear, it has to be, 4 is also structure or pattern, so we want to have like a really solid structure, right, to build upon. We want to have a solid form. And so ultimately unlocking this arcanum or this secret or 4 or Emperor to the deepest level requires us to consider what is the ultimate strategy, what is the ultimate structure or pattern of the universe, which is reflected in nature, in all things and in all beings. What is that pattern? Ultimately, that's the law or the balance that is back of all things, right? So the truly activated and actualized Emperor, aka Sovereign, will be aware of this pattern and will fashion his own life after this example of the holy pattern. He will use this pattern back of all things to rely on as he creates structures and rituals and strategies in his life. Because he knows that he can absolutely rely on these laws or, divine, universal, energetic laws, right? Laws of energy, laws of nature, laws of the divine, laws of the cosmos. He knows that these are the most reliable laws or reflections to build his blueprint upon. Okay, so now you know a little bit about him. You've received a mini activation of the Emperor within there, okay? So if we ask the Emperor within, how do I say no? He would say, you know, and you're confident in that, and you do it. You carry it through. You say no, you carry it out, and you do it in a way that you're going to feel proud of. Because this is going to set the tone, right? It's that impression, it's that pattern that's going to affect you in the future. So he would say, listen, like it's almost like you're getting counsel from a wise king here. Okay, so he would say, you have to be kind, of course, but you have to be firm. You have to say no and say it in a way that's going to set the tone for the future. So understand that how you say it now is going to affect the way that you say it in the future. And it's going to affect a lot of people, and it's going to affect our world because you are witnessed, you are seen. And what you express, okay, so like the form of your thoughts becomes, your words becomes things, and then it's witnessed by the world around you, and then it has an even greater effect. So understand what that means, and understand the importance of strategically choosing how you're going to say this no, and how you're going to set this boundary, and make sure you're proud of it, you solidify the plan, and you carry it out to the end. That's what he would say. And understand, a lot of these archetypes they might sound like they have similar advice, or all the messages sound like they're kind of similar, because it's all one. You're right. This is not like, psychism is something that anybody can achieve. It's simply just accessing this archetypal wisdom that lives within you. It's not rocket science. And all of these pieces of advice do start to sound the same because they are all parts of the one alchemical process that is always infinitely, cyclically unfolding, right? It's almost like, if y'all know about Ezekiel's wheel, it's like Ezekiel's wheel is the frequencies of these different archetypes spinning, because the archetypes are connected to numbers and colors and sounds as well. So it's like this moving, spinning, fiery wheel of color, sound, and light, right? Like this Merkaba, Chariot, it's all these wheels. And the archetypes are, if you were to stop that wheel and freeze it in time, it would look like the wheel of the zodiac, which also, those frequencies are connected to the different archetypes of the tarot. The tarot and the archetypes are the foundation of it all. So I know that one's a little far out, but if you know about Ezekiel's wheel, hopefully you kept up with me on that far out vision. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. We're going to do 5. And this is the Hierophant. And again, I'm going to tell you a little bit about him, and then we'll ask him the question. Okay, the Hierophant is the teacher within. It's the guru within. It's the one who, and remember, we all can be consciously in these archetypes or unconsciously in these archetypes. So we're either embodying them on a positive or negative spectrum, or sometimes we flip-flop. Most of the time we flip-flop back and forth all day. So the Hierophant is, when you access this archetype on a positive level, is the teacher within, and the one who is humble and understands that he's here to both share what he learns on his path, but to also receive and reflect from others and reflect on what others have to share. Okay, so he takes on the responsibility of sharing what he learns, but he remains, benevolent and giving and loving, because he knows that he's not here to become power hungry. It's not about being the teacher and wearing that one hat. He doesn't want to get stuck in that one archetype. He understands that the teacher within is but a part of him, and he has many different aspects of himself. Okay, so this is a little bit about the Hierophant. It's also the number 5, so it's connected to the secrets of Arcanum 5, or the frequency of the sacred numerology of the number 5. And 5 is about 5 senses. We have 5 senses to experience this world and learn and take it in and perceive it and define it and connect with it. So the 5 senses also become the bridge between above and below. And that's a big aspect of this card. He is a space holder for above and below. That's why you see the 2 acolytes here, the students, but then, he's honoring, there are many symbols here showing that he's honoring the divine information that's coming to him. He can't own it as his own, and he, transfers that energy. And I could go on and on and on, but again, I have a class about this. Just ask me, okay? So he's the teacher. He's the bridger of above and below. 5 is the number of the senses. 5 is also like a star, you guys. Think of a star, 5-pointed star. He sees his reflection in the stars. And in that, he sees that really he's one with all things. So this 5 ultimately becomes this number that's connected to Earth, and kind of tells us the secrets about how to identify our own reflection within all things. So now that you know a little bit about this angle of awareness that exists within the universal mind, which includes your mind, let's ask the Hierophant, how do I say no? How do I set a boundary? And the Hierophant would say, you do it in a way where you genuinely think of, genuinely already came up with your strategy, you carried it out, you stick by it, you are also available as, and there are many answers, okay? Again, this is you can tune into your archetypes. Eventually you'll come up with an infinite amount of answers. They'll speak to you all the time. So I'm just giving you an example right now, okay? So the Hierophant might tell you in regard to setting a boundary, when you say no, let's say you're afraid of that person being upset with your boundary. Because that's a big one, right? Like, obviously we are like, oh my God, like this person's response, how are they going to respond to the boundary? That's usually a huge part of it, if not the part of the one thing that you're stressed out about, right? Then the Hierophant would say, if it's for the plan and if it's going to bring more awareness, if it's going to teach us as a whole, that we, teach us as a whole, teach us anything as a whole, if it's going to help us ascend, if it's going to bring us some key. By the way, there's usually keys somewhere on the Hierophant card. In tarot art, you'll often see the 2 keys. It's saying that you need both knowledge and wisdom in order to be that space holder for above and below to merge, right? So the Hierophant would say, if doing this is going to bring some key that's going to help us to ascend, if it's going to bring more awareness to us, to be able to see things more clearly and to tune into our hearts more, then you got to do it. Then do it and stay in your heart. And if you're worried about that person's response, first know that you got to do what you got to do. Don't let them manipulate you. Remember, your inner teacher will tell you, don't fall for the ish. You know what I'm saying? Don't fall for it. But that inner guru would also say, remain loving and compassionate. So if you're worried about the response, know that if it's their decision to respond however they want. You have no control of it, first of all, so let go. Second of all, even worst case scenario, if they were to respond in a sharp way or whatever, the inner guru would tell you in that moment, it's okay, stay in your heart, stay loving. You never know what could happen. If you open up your heart, they may feel safe to also shift and understand why you needed to say no, and then maybe even agree with your decision and really surprise you in a miraculous way because you trusted and you stayed in your heart. And you were a positive example. And so then your inner teacher shined through and became an example and taught that person that you were afraid of hurting. And that's just one example. That's just one example. But remember, the Hierophant is that inner teacher, that inner guru, which ultimately is what? It's your heart. It's the heart compass. So on the deepest level of initiation within this card, you're able to see that. That the teacher that comes through you, comes out of you, expressed by you, we don't have to try so hard. It's effortless. Our expression of this archetype, of that teacher, it's in us all. It becomes effortless when we tune into the inner guru or teacher that is the heart. So it's all about tuning into the heart's compass. And so what would that archetype say to you if you asked about how to set a boundary? Is it going to help us to be more in our hearts and help each other to be in our hearts? And how can we stay in our heart as we move through it? Okay? I'm just going to do a couple more here. I'm hoping that you're enjoying this so far and it's shedding some light on how to use the tarot in a new way. This next one is super important as well for our question of how to set boundaries and how to say no. Because 6, you may know as the Lovers in modern tarot, but it's also known as the 2 paths. The Lovers is really a metaphor for polarity, you guys. So it's about like the 2 paths and the split or the fork in the road, okay? And so understanding it as the 2 paths really reveals the deeper understanding of Arcanum 6. Often people get confused about Arcanum 6 because the name throws them off. Lovers, okay? If you want to talk about love, let's go into the Suit of Cups and the two of Cups, right? But that's a whole other conversation. So this is a metaphor. The Lovers is actually a metaphor for the 2 paths. It's essentially a choice point. What to say yes to, what to say no to. And ultimately, each moment, we're making choices, consciously or unconsciously. We can't help it because we live in a world of polarity. And so our being is effortlessly maintaining this oscillation of the forces of polarity just to exist. That opposition of the forces within all things, within us, within nature, it's what keeps us going because the forces vibrate in opposition and then it holds everything together. So ultimately, this archetype is representing a force that is fundamentally operative, always, eternally. And ultimately, that's what each of these cards represent, including the devil. It's always there, but it's how we look at it that makes the difference, you see? Okay, so let's go back to the choice point. I love the art on this card. I love the art in this deck so much. I hope you guys enjoy the art when I make mine. I know you will. So the choice point. Now, this is funny, right? Because our question was, how do I say no? Let's talk a little bit more about this card. This card is the choice point. It's when you have to decide which way to go. And you may sometimes come to this point and And it's always happening, like I said, but we tend to become consciously aware of it when it's like right in front of our face, or it's manifesting as like a situation that's needing our attention, right? So how we recognize this archetype is when it's in our face and it's calling us to make a major decision. And there may be many different ways we could go, and they all may seem right, and so we might be a little scared. I don't know which way to go. Ultimately, we have to tune in to the heart, and it will guide us to the best possible path to walk. And good thing we just did that here with 5, because remember, it's a sequence. That's why we have to go in order. That's why you should start here and not try to do tarot like you're taught in these modern books, to just pick up a deck and pick them mindlessly. First, start by organizing the system and understanding each part of it so that you can really get into it. And then you'll be ready for the divination aspect, okay? So good thing we just did this part of the story. We got that down, locked in the heart's compass and the inner guru, inner teacher. And now we're ready to put that to the test, right? This is the other half of the learning process. While the Hierophant was the process of tuning into that heart's compass, now we're going to put it to use, okay? This is like the gnosis aspect. You learn things, you gather knowledge, but then it has to be put to the test in order for you to crystallize that new realization and to integrate it and actualize it in our world, right? So now we're at this point. And we ask the inner lovers, or we ask the inner choice point, or we ask the inner 2 paths. What do I do here? What do I do at this crossroads? I feel like I need to say no, I need to set a boundary. What do I do? Okay, you would tune in and ask. Tune into your heart. You already did that. It knows the way to go. This is the point where you're reminded to trust yourself and trust the work that you've done to come to this decision to say no or set that boundary. And if you need to double check, double check. If you need to ask yourself a few times and have that self-dialogue, do it as much as you need to gain that confidence in your decision, because this is a choice point and it's going to affect your future. It's going to affect our future. So this part of your mind or your psyche or this archetype would answer your question of how to set a boundary by saying, come to the decision from your heart, affirm it again and again, do what you need to do to get to that place, that level of confidence in your decision. And know that if it's coming from the heart, you will be fine. And know that ultimately, this is all an illusion. Choice point, the split in the road, it's one road, hun. It's one road. It's the one royal path. It's the one tarot. There's only one. So this is an illusion. And ultimately, all this will fade away. The decision in front of you and all the effects of that decision are going to fade away. This is a temporary world. And yes, it is very real right here, right now. And that's a whole other conversation to have. But what I'm saying is you got to take it. We're not here to transcend the body, but we are here to transcend in the mind. And so in those moments, you want to transcend. You want to rise above the picture. And you want to get to that level of understanding where you remember it's not really about the different paths. It's about me being confident in my decision-making abilities. It's about me understanding how to tune into my heart when I make decisions, and how to make decisions that are going to affect the one in a way that's positive, in a way that's going to bring heaven and earth a little bit closer. So now that I've risen above the situation and I've remembered the oneness of all things and the illusion of separation anyway, the 2 paths or the many paths reminds me, because I like to think of this also as the many. It's not just 2. 2 represents the many, right? The many paths in me reminds me that it doesn't matter which path I go down, because whatever path I do go down, it's meant to be. Because there's nothing outside of divine order. Of course, there's literally no wrong path. I literally can't take a wrong path. Because even our mistakes, and the devil, Arcanum 15 will tell you this, even our mistakes become blessings and lessons in hindsight. Our growth is inevitable. We gon' shine. We gon' shine. Okay? So accept your illumination here and now, because it's inevitable. So that's what the choice point would tell you. Remember what we told you with the Fool. The choice point would say, remember at the 0 point, the access point, everything is in divine order. It's all good. It doesn't matter what road you take, really. What really matters is your ability to make decisions from your heart, trust yourself, use that heart compass more and more so that you continue to observe yourself again and again in that role. Loving yourself more and more as you do that, being proud of yourself more and more as you do that, deepening your ability to embody those archetypes and make those decisions from the heart more and more. That's what this is really about. That's what the choice point is really about. Self-reflection on your ability to make the right choices again and again. Okay, and then I'll talk about one more card and then I will end it there, although I have so much fun doing this. This is literally the way I see things, you guys, except without having to break it down, it's just kind of something that becomes effortless, like I said, and it will happen for you too if you put in the work and if you practice and you strengthen and fortify those neural pathways that connect you to these sources of energy, which are the archetypes. So the final one I'm going to talk about is number 7, the next one in the sequence. The Chariot. Look, there's not even wheels on it, okay? It's Sphinxes, there are no wheels. He's not really traveling anywhere, and that's because we're addressing travel within the mind, progression within the psyche, but also progression in the spirit world, which we don't need to move our body anywhere to progress in the mind and in spirit. So 7 is the Chariot, aka the Conqueror, and it's a card of victory, and 7 is the number of spiritual attainment and spiritual victory and progress, and it's the number of heaven on earth, bringing heaven to earth, locking it in, success, because that is the ultimate goal, heaven on earth. Okay, so we went through the tuning into the heart's compass. Now we used it on the 2 paths. We were guided down the right road because we realized that the road is what we make it, right? And now we're at the point where we hopefully are achieving victory. We're achieving success. We're being guided. Success looks like balancing those 2 within you, the many within you, the archetypes within you, and getting somewhere, progressing, ascending. Merkava in Hebrew means chariot. The Merkaba is, as the forces spin within you and you get them in alignment, it's said that we begin to kind of reflect like this light of a star tetrahedron, because we have one force going this way, another going this way, creates a toroidal flow, but then we have these 5 points that are emanating, so it creates basically a 6-pointed star, kind of, the Merkaba. So all that, by the way, which is on the back of this card, is connected to this archetype, Arcanum 7, which is all about ascension, victory, spiritual attainment, okay? So this is the part, and you ask 7, like, oh, okay, so like, how do I set the boundary? You do it and you envision your success. You trust that you will, this is what this one would say to you from within. It would say, remember, you will be guided by those forces. If you've been following each of the steps, each of the cards that we went through, each of the numbers in the right way, then you will ensure that you reach 7, success, to your greatest ability to do so. You want to get to this point having really given your best to all previous archetypes and previous parts, because the more you access the deepest levels of initiation within the previous cards, the greater you will access the levels of initiation in the cards to come. So at this point, 7 would say to you, the Conqueror or the Chariot would say to you, envision your success with this. Why are you doing it? Why are you saying no? Why are you setting the boundary? What limit are you trying to exceed right now for yourself as far as like your success and your well-being and your prosperity? How is setting this boundary and saying no going to help you achieve that level of wealth and health and prosperity? And remember to take it to the grander level, rise above. It's not just about you. How is you saying no and setting a boundary going to help the one ascend and the one progress? Because then when you get to that level of seeing it, you can really feel confident in your decision and really justify saying no, because you've locked in your ritual of being and your expression into this higher purpose of doing it for us, not just you. And so then you have all that power and purpose to back up your ability to be confident in saying no and setting that boundary. You know what I'm saying? You'll be like, I'm ready to say no to that thing. I'm not even scared anymore because it's my duty and I have to do this for us if I want us to progress as one consciousness. All right, so I can go on and on. I can continue with the whole deck, but that's up to you guys now to get familiar with it. Please feel free to message me questions that you have. I will get back to you when I can. Thank you for being respectful of my boundaries and when I have to say no. And we're all just, trying to be the best examples we can, right, for setting boundaries and saying no and honoring ourselves and each other in a way that creates the most harmony in our world. So I will be on soon. My next topic will be how to transform vice into virtue and it will be another advice from the archetypes video, so I'll walk you through that similarly to how I did it today. Thank you guys for sitting with me. I appreciate you. If you don't yet follow me on YouTube, please subscribe to me there. It's Rebecca Magic, so youtube.com/Rebecca Magic. I'm also on Instagram, Rebecca Magic. You can follow me on Facebook if we're not friends here, or if you don't already follow me. Remember, I go live every week for a collective message that we can all unite in. And also go ahead and join my private groups if you want to stay connected. I have 2 private groups on Facebook. One is called Shabbat Crew, SHABBAT Crew. And that's where I share about Jewish mysticism and Kabbalah and the mystical import of the current Torah story every week, which is tonight because Shabbat is starting at sundown. Shabbat Shalom. And my other group is called The Royal Path, of course. So you can search The Royal Path. Go ahead and join us. We talk about this kind of stuff. So if you like it, I'll see you there. Aloha.